I want to ask you about a couple of the more popular trending creators of today now.
Sure.
We have guys like Joe Rogan,
Yep.
who have just absolutely crushed the podcast game.
Yep.
And he used to be only on Spotify. Now they just gave him the biggest contract ever. He can go wherever he wants.
Wow.
I think he was only allowed on podcast, and now he's able to put his podcast on YouTube, Apple, whatever else. He got like free reign.
Nice.
You have guys like Tucker Carlson, who went off of Fox News and now bigger than ever before.
Yep.
There's this new acronym that I've saw recently. They call it MAM. Have you heard that yet?
No.
MAM.
No.
Mainstream Alternative Media. It's a new term they're trying to coin.
Okay.
So instead of mainstream media, now it's mainstream alternative media.
Got it.
And these guys are creating this new narrative, right?
Okay.
So the Joe Rogans, the Tucker Carlsons, the Andrew Tates, I saw you on the list.
Oh, nice.
Of the MAMs.
Cool. I am transgender after all.
But there's a new movement, and this alternative media movement is growing bigger than ever.
Yeah.
And I love what Joe's doing. I love what Tucker's doing. I love what you're doing. And then there's people that are considered kind of conservative alternative media. I don't know how much I love what they're doing.
Yeah.
You have a Ben Shapiro and Daily Wire and Jordan Peterson, who you've somewhat been vocal about at times. But they seem to be, they almost want to sound like they're anti-establishment, anti-matrix, anti-this. And a part of me is like, but I feel like they're just playing the other side of the matrix.
Oh yeah, completely. I want to be careful which specific names I say, but let's put it this way. We talked earlier about what the popular thing to say is and how people do it purely for the views. I think that if you're truly anti-matrix, you're not calling for people to go die in wars all of the time. I actually think that's, and this is a bit of a segue from the question you asked, but it's true. I think one of the most heinous things people can do is to sit and wish for the deaths of other humans and wish for other people's sons to go die in a ditch while they don't send their own sons to do it. And a lot of these people who consider themselves conservative are just calling for forever war, and these neocons. It's truly disgusting. And I agree with you. If you're truly alternative to the matrix, you also hold... If your worldview is 100% aligned with any particular side, I would argue that you're disingenuous. Because I hold liberal opinions. It's very liberal to support Palestine. That's what the left does. Not the right. I'm considered right-wing and conservative. Why am I so adamant in my support for Palestine, which is a liberal ideal, right? So I hold different ideas on both sides of the fence because that's how I view the world. Some of these guys which instantly sign up with like the Daily Wire team. I love Candace. She's amazing and she's true. But some of these other people on the Daily Wire, every single thing is exactly what they were told to say and what they believe. Well, then you have to ask a question. Have they just sold their soul to the other side? Because they've got their sponsorship contract from the Daily Wire and they say what they're supposed to say and they repeat what they're supposed to repeat. Otherwise they lose their money. And then you start to say, well, who's behind them? And that's where controlled opposition comes from. Controlled opposition is just going to be, I mean, if I had a whole bunch of money and I was sponsoring liberal ideals, the people who were combating those liberal ideals, if I could pay them enough money to only semi-combat the non-important ones and allow me to get away with the really important stuff, all for a little bit of money, which I have plenty of and I don't value anyway, well, then I'd do that, wouldn't I? It'd be a fool to think there's not controlled opposition in the world.
I mean, when I think, they've offered me a little bit of money, they've offered you a lot of money, and then we see a lot of these quote-unquote influencers that kind of all seem to be on the same page, and it makes you wonder, like, how many of these people actually took the money? And the reality is probably like most of them.
Of course. I mean, I don't want to say any particular names, but there's...
Yeah, it's not our business to call out other people.
But I don't want to say any names, but Ben Shapiro. Go to war, go to war, go to war. Get the vaccine, get the vaccine, get the vaccine. Go kill people for Israel, go to war. Yeah, we need to go to war all the time. Bro, you go to war. You go to fucking war. Why are you telling everyone else to go to war? You go fight. No, you don't want to fight. You want to sit in your little desk. Guy's full of shit. And he's being paid to say things, and he's full of shit. And then he had to release a rap song to try and distract everyone for the fact he was calling for the genocide of children. And he's like, oh, maybe if I make a fool of myself, people will forget. I don't forget. You're a dumbass. And one day I'll meet you probably because we're in the same-ish spheres. And I'll look down there and call you a little nerd because you are. So get fucked. None of these people are in... Bro, that's another thing that's about politics. You talk about fraternity and we talk about the matrix and all these things. you need to be true to yourself. You have to believe your own eyes and you have to come to your own conclusions. But a lot of these people who are 100% ideologically aligned, they're just as sour as the people who are 100% ideologically aligned the other way.
I agree. I mean, most people are somewhere in the middle. You believe some of the things on the right, you believe some of the things on the left, and that's how normal people are. That's
100%,
fine.
100%.
We don't have to agree on everything.
It's kind of funny because the conservative movement, a lot of them kind of don't like me now, and that's because I've eclipsed their relevance massively. You could add them all together, nobody cares. But a lot of the reason they attack me is they try and attack my morality, right? They say, oh, he had something to do with the webcam girls a long time ago, and he swears, and he did this, or whatever they're complaining about. And it's kind of interesting that they don't understand my affinity with people is the fact that I'm absolutely real, and I'm coming from a bad area, and I've had to do certain things to survive. And when people from a white picket fence household who grew up in a rich enough family home where everyone had food to eat and everything was perfect, they're going to sit there and try and preach morality. Nobody listens because you had an advantaged start in life. I come from a very disadvantaged point in my life, and I did what I had to do to escape the poverty I was in. The people around me were killing each other. I grew up around stabbings and drug dealing, and the old lady next to me got robbed and beaten to death, and they're complaining about the things I did. It's like the real world's a harsh world, and that's where you learn the real lessons of it. So some of the conservatives who have attacked me for my morality often don't understand how they ostracize themselves amongst the general populace, because if you just sit there with a very Christian upbringing, white picket fence, rich household, mom and father together and love each other, happy families, of course you're going to sit there and preach morality. Well, you were born in the most advantaged scenario ever. I grew up in Gary, Indiana, then Luton, England, in a single mother household. It's a completely different reality. But
virtue signaling on both sides.